Thanks for joining us today on The Perfect X. My name is Sherry, and this is my co host, Leigh.
Greetings, Internet.
And today we're talking about how soon you should introduce someone to your friends and family.
Giddy up.
Right. All right. So, I have a really big stance on this, but I'm also a little bit unique on my perspective because my parents have met guys like on my first dates. Like when I lived at home, they came right to the door. They don't care. They genuinely don't see a guy I go on a date with as my next significant anything unless it comes out of my mouth that they are. So like they have zero attachment.
Yeah,
What about
and
you?
there's so many suitors coming and going. I'm sure they've
Yeah.
lost interest, right?
Yeah, they're like, they don't even care. They just wish them the best of luck.
When I was there, they're just like, "Oh, it's you. You're fine." I remember your mom
Well,
like, "Sherry, no boys in the bedroom," and you're like, "It's just Lee," and she's like, "Oh, never mind." I'm like, wow.
it was I wasn't allowed to close the door,
Oh
but
yeah, yeah.
you and a couple of my other guy friends, I was allowed. But with I won't say it, but the other one, I almost said his name. I wasn't because my mom knows that I did sort of hang out with him before, but with you, I could close the door.
Oh yes.
But yeah, they knew that wasn't going anywhere. They're like, they knew you had a little bit of a brain, so they had some faith in you. They're like, oh, he won't even, he
I think it's
won't
probably
try.
because when I went over, you weren't like dolled up either, so they're probably like, "Ah, it's fine."
Nowadays, even if a guy comes to the door, I'm not dolled up. You should see me. You'll be lucky if I got out of my PJs. But yeah, my parents didn't care. They genuinely didn't care. They were like, date, meet people, get to know someone. Like they didn't think I was the type of person to like every date would be a potential boyfriend. I just wasn't my personality, so they didn't look into it. They just trusted my judgment.
Mhm.
But I on in the reciprocating fact, I don't feel comfortable, and I'll tell you a funny story after I get your stance on this about I don't like meeting someone's family until I'm sure I'm like really interested. But friends, I don't care. Friends, I don't care at all. Like I think because I'm social and I'm always love meeting people, I'm happy to meet a guy's friend on like the second date because I don't think friends are a reflection of who the guy is either. I don't have that stance or girl. I don't think your friends define who you are because and same with you, like we've always had friends from all walks of life.
Mhm.
Even you and I, we're completely fucking different,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
So I don't think, and I know that's why people reserve meeting friends. They don't want the judgment or they don't whatever. I even if I was like dating a guy and his best friend is like just got out of prison, I don't think it has anything to do with him. Like
Mhm.
my best friends growing up are completely opposite than me. All my closest girlfriends, they're so opposite. They like my best friend now has a PhD. My other girlfriend's a lawyer in two different countries. Like I'm
Wow.
barely educated. So, 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 I wish that was a reflection on me. I'll take it, but I don't. I don't think it does. But family, I don't like to meet them right away because I think they may take it seriously, especially as we get older. So I'm a little bit careful about that.
Are your parents are they like push did they want you to like get into a relationship and like do all that, or they don't
Oh,
really care?
they've never ever said that. They've always said, "Do whatever makes you happy." And they always told me right off the beginning, like, if you don't ever want to get married and you don't want to have kids, that's your choice. Like,
Oh,
they
that's good.
never ever, yeah. What about you? Were you ever? You were young still, but did they ever?
No, my parents like literally like we never talked about anything. They didn't care. I had girlfriends, like so it wasn't unusual for like some girl to stop by. It might have been like a buddy and his girlfriend, or just like one of my girlfriends or whatever, right? Like it was never that big a deal when someone came around. Like they never really read into it, unless I like the same as you, like unless I said otherwise, they didn't really read into it.
Exactly, exactly. And like they when your parents aren't like that, you don't think about it. But what about the opposite? Like, would you want to meet your significant other parents right away? Like, when
No,
do you
I
usually meet them?
I um met them fairly early on, I think, but I never was too concerned like with it. I never I mean not maybe being naive, I didn't think much of it, but yeah, you're kind of like, these are the people that you're potentially going to be around a lot or a fair bit. But yeah, I never really concerned myself with their like what their family like my all the few girls that I dated, they all came from like pretty good families. The parents were like always welcoming and that kind of thing. So I never really had like a bad experience with like a girlfriend's family. So I guess I was never leery of it or anxious to meet them or even in a rush to meet them or whatever. I just because it was never like a big surprise or a big issue at all. So I never gave it a ton of thought. I just kind of would randomly meet them at, whatever, if I was going there or picking someone up or whatever it might have been, right?
Well, you're also from the generation when you dated back then too, like, that when I was that age and I was dating, people came to our door, like, we lived
Yeah.
at home.
Yeah, it wasn't
So,
like a big
yeah.
shroud of mystery. Like you weren't like blowing
Yeah,
your
yeah.
horn from the street or whatever. Like, like
Yeah.
anyone I dated, like I've said before, I was probably friends with first too. So they were around, and then when we live in a home and stuff, people were always coming and going and doing whatever, right?
Exactly, I think that makes a big difference, but what would be your advice today? Like, if one of your friends now you've got friends that are divorced or they're single, what would you say and what would be your advice? I mean, what is your thoughts about meeting family too soon for other people?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird at our age because a lot of times the issue is that there's like a child involved, and I think people don't want to like rush that because the child might get attached, and then the person they split up for whatever reason. So I think from what I've seen of my friends dating in like older years now, is the apprehension is usually more so with like a child involved.
Well, that's actually a really good thing too. Like, when I was a little bit younger, like in my sorry, not early, my late 20s, early 30s, and I went out with guys with kids. And even though it's not my preference, I didn't really mind meeting them off the bat because I didn't really think about the impact. Like, I didn't think about those things. I didn't have kids and I didn't really know what it meant. And I have such an easygoing family, I assumed it would be the difference. But I did once break up with a guy whose kids kept on messaging. He was a little bit older than me, and his daughter was like 14.
Hmm.
And she just kept messaging me after, and that was awkward. And after that, I just never, and not that we were awkward, we left on good terms, we're good friends, but I didn't want to continue like that close of a relationship with her.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and you can't really say that to a 14-year-old, right? So
Yeah.
I actually, after that, always thought like, unless it's like months in, or, I had no interest and I have never actually met someone's kids since,
Yeah.
and I always wonder, and I have friends with kids and they wonder when they should show. It also depends on the age. Like, if they're so little, they won't really think much of it, you know?
I think it depends on how you frame it to the kid too. You're like, hey, this is my friend so and so. You know what I mean? Like, who cares if you meet them a handful of times? It's
But it does matter because think about it. Imagine like like a lot of people, like, they don't have guy and girlfriends. So if that's like the only girl you're bringing around, the kid's gonna put it together.
that would be different. But if you like you and I who have like a bunch of different friends, I think you could pass it off as just like a friendship or whatever till you were more serious.
It's funny because we grew up in the mentality in Vancouver where guys and girls are friends.
Yeah,
And when I
yeah.
moved to the States, I started becoming like the only friend that's a girl with certain guys. Like, they actually, and I'm not saying it's across the States, I'm sure it's not like this for everybody. And I have guy friends in the States that have many girlfriends that are friends.
Mhm.
But the general conception is like there's very few of that. So I started to realize, and a lot of my friends, that guys that I've made when I first moved out here, as they got in relationships, stopped being so close, or I barely ever talk to them. More like if something's up or things happen, they reach out, kind of thing. But it's not as close as it used to be.
Yeah.
And my Vancouver guy friends, it's not like that. In fact, not like that at all. Like, I'm just as close to you as I was then, before you're
Mhm.
married, after. Same with like a few of my other guy friends. One of my guy friends has like a girlfriend he's been with for years. She's really close with me. Like, I don't, it didn't alter my friendship with them. I
Yeah.
have seen it alter in the States.
I think it just
So,
depends on the significant other. Like if your boyfriend his has other girlfriend, it just depends on how I guess you both feel about it. Like some people that just like you or I that have friends of the opposite sex and then you get into a relationship, it's probably like, oh well, like that's just how they've always been. But some people are uncomfortable with it. I don't know, I see it. Like I have friends that seem to get weird about having people around, and it just I don't know what the story is, but I think it's just always been part of your personality to have friends of the opposite sex. It probably wouldn't be an issue, but it kind of depends on the person. Like some people are just, I think, are less comfortable with it, or if they just don't have friends of the opposite sex themselves.
they don't understand it, exactly, if
Yeah,
they don't
I
have it
think that's a
themselves.
big problem. If you aren't someone that had friends of the opposite sex, just like literally like friends, um,
Yeah.
and then you get involved with someone that has always had friends of the opposite sex, I could see that being like a headbutting situation, right?
And let's say like you do or don't, but because of the fact that most people, I think, like, it's, if they don't, I don't think you should bring someone around as just a friend. I think meeting the kid should be like the last step. I even think like I would be more comfortable meeting someone's parents than someone's teenage somethings, you
Yeah,
know.
definitely. Because apparently adults can, they can process it and it won't be like an issue. But yeah, kids can get attached, right? Yeah.
But I also don't believe in meeting, and it's funny because again, like we both come from families where I generally can bring a guy in, like I would even bring a guy from LA to Vancouver if I wanted. My parents wouldn't think anything of it
Yeah.
unless I said otherwise.
My
But
parents are basically the same. They didn't give it a lot of
yeah,
thought. And they never really asked me anything about my personal life either. You know.
my parents asked, but that's why the thing is like they know if it's something really serious, I would say it, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But I still, and it's funny because I live in LA. When I first moved out here, I had like two situations like this where I met a guy and like within the first one of them within the first few dates wanted me to meet his mom who lived with him right off the bat.
Hmm.
And at the time I didn't think anything of it because again I was a little bit more naive and whatever. And then like we were hanging out and he took, and this is why I'm wary of people meeting each other's parents right off the bat, because it makes things more difficult if you're not sure. So I was just getting to get to know him, and he lived very close by, and I didn't know anybody in LA. And as I got to like get comfortable, I was out here like I was wanting to date.
Yeah.
So I started dating other people, and I didn't take me and him serious. And I had told him in the beginning, I'm not looking for a relationship. So like if you want to chill or hang out, that's great, but it's not something serious. And then his mom lived with him, so like the more you hang out, well, okay, I come to his place, the mom's there, you know.
Yeah.
And she had just moved to LA, so that's why she was living with him. Like she was going to get a place or whatever soon, but
Hmm.
she was there at the time. And then like a couple weeks of hanging out, I realized like we really didn't have much in common. And I started to meet other people and go on other dates. They didn't really want to hang out with me anymore. And the problem I had was his mom kept messaging me and asking me to come to dinner and doing all this stuff. And it's like, you can't be rude. Like, I
Did
can't say
he
no.
clarify with the mom that things weren't going down, or was he still sort of like not sure what was going on?
Well, he did. And after a while, I said, like, listen, like, I don't really think there's something going long term with us. I think you're looking for something serious. So I think it's best we don't hang out anymore. And I would assume he would tell the mom. I guess when he did, she bought me gifts.
Oh,
So he brought it over, and it was like I had to break up with the mom, which was much harder than with the guy. Like with the guy, we both just moved on in life. And after that, I was like, and this is why I think you really should. I mean, unless someone else has like, and they say, like, my parents are really chill. They're not going to look into this. Like they don't care
yeah.
unless you say something like that. And at the older you get, it's actually harder because guys parents maybe, I mean, most parents want their son to get married and have kids, or they want those things. So meeting that guy's parents or that girl's parents, it becomes a little bit more serious. So I think you should refrain until you're positive you like the person, and not when you're just exploring how you feel about them.
Yeah, unless
And
like you say they come right out and they're like, "Oh, my parents would think nothing of it." Like, it's not a
yes,
big deal if you pop around or whatever. But yeah, these people may not be that self-aware either, thinking like it's not an issue and then the parents overdo it or something. But it's hard to, yeah, the best fail-safe thing would be the, obviously, like you say, like give it a bit of time before you start. And,
or
you
like
and being that
if you're
you have your own
sure
place
you
and stuff, you don't need to typically
go to
mix
the,
with the family other than the situation you're talking about. But
and there's no real time frame. Like if you're sure, like I've met guys that I'm sure I like them within a few weeks, and then I dated them for years. You know, like if you're sure about the person, if you have all that chemistry you want, like you're into it, you're all in. You know,
mhm.
go meet the parents. But if you're not sure, don't meet them. And
is
there's not exact time frame. Just don't jump the gun because you're nosy.
Is that something that people push for, like in like they trying to like solidify the relationship early on by getting to meet family or friends or things like that?
Yes, both and on both sides. So I'll tell you one side, which I've experienced, and then I'll tell you which I haven't done, but I've seen. I have friends that do it. Like well, the other side is I have friends who want to meet the parents right off the bat, like much sooner than they should. Like they'll be pushing
Just to
the
see
guy
what
or
they're
the
getting
girl.
into, or is it,
Yes,
yeah,
yes. And I always tell them, I'm like, exploring the family is important, but not more important than first exploring the person. Like they're
yeah,
not even sure if they like the guy, and they need, or a girl, and they need to meet the family before deciding. I'm like, it's not like that. Like you first need to be sure about the person and
yeah,
then meet the family. I've had the opposite where exactly the guy was like pushing me to meet his mom, like really like, and I'd only hung out with him for like a week, and he kept saying, oh, my mom and my sister invited you to our family, like my niece's birthday. My mom invited you to dinner time. And it's like, if your mom actually did, I can't keep saying no, it's rude. And I kept being like, look, I'm just not comfortable because I didn't know how I felt about him. Like I liked him, we were having fun, but I didn't know. And he was like 7 years older than me. He was looking for marriage, and I was like,
Yeah.
and he like was really like wanting marriage. His obviously his mom also wanted him to get married because he mentioned it. Like, and I was like, this is not me coming as an intro, because also when you're exploring the parents, they're exploring you, and I'm like, I'm not even in a place where I want your mom to decide if I'm your significant other, because I don't know if I want to be your significant other, you know?
Yeah. What I see a
And
lot of in my age is people who get into relationships trying to like skip steps and like establish
rush.
like a big relationship, like they've been together forever in like a short period of time. And I think that's like a tactic like that guy maybe, and even inadvertently, he's just like saying he wants, the mom wants you to come around and this kind of thing. Like it might, I swear, like some people think they can just like force or like skip steps in relationships and like jump into like an established relationship like very quickly.
And it can. Sometimes it really is. Like, I believe in fairy tale stories. Like, I know someone who met someone 3 months in, got engaged 3 months after that, and they've been together for 21 years.
It
No
happens.
problems. Best relation. It happens. It can happen. But if you're like pushing it and the other person isn't reciprocating, you gotta like tone it down. And this guy told, like, one day we were like in his car going to dinner, and as we're going to dinner, he's like, I just have to grab something, and I thought we're going to a store or something. I didn't even ask what. Like I wasn't even thinking. And then he's like pulls up in this neighborhood. I'm like, wait, where are we going? He's like, I just have to grab something at this house. And then I was like, what house? And then he pulls up into the driveway. His
Hmm.
mom comes out,
That's
and now
haywire.
it
That's
was
just
that
that's
was
just weird. That's just like greasy. I don't know. Like, and it's obviously like probably comes from a good place, but like I feel like you're just like completely forcing an issue, right? Like you're like, oh well,
well,
if I
I was
just
fucking dying. I
dude,
was
I see it,
dying.
man. I see it in like other relationships with people that haven't been together that long and they're just completely overdoing it on social media and overcompensating and like just laying it on so thick. And I'm like, man, like, come on, like, just come on, right? You know what I mean?
Well, you know, they say if it's like on social media, it's probably because they're making up for the fact the relationship sucks.
Oh, have you seen
Like
that?
if it's
There's a
that,
similar meme that was something
yeah,
to the
yeah.
effect of like, the marriage is fucked when you see the fall photo shoot come out.
Yeah, like
It's like
something along,
clockwork,
yeah.
man. Like, oh my god,
But
who
it
fucked
is
the
true.
mailman?
No, but it's
Edit
true,
that
it's
out.
true. No, it's funny. Okay, but no, but seriously, yeah, and it's awkward, and also it's, like, puts you on the spot because, like, I already was probably bad in her books. I came to her house empty-handed, sh and she assumed I knew we were coming, and I'm jaw on the ground, like, no flowers, nothing,
That's
coming to her
fucked.
fucking house. It was so fun. I was
It's just
so
that
livid.
honestly, I can tell from a mile away. It's just that guy trying to force a relationship, like to skip steps and like be more established than it is. Like, I don't know if it's some weird tactic, like people think that you get entangled enough that you won't just like break up with them on a whim, or something like it's
But
too
it
entangled.
is a tactic. It is
It
a
is,
like, and
even
that's
if it's
exactly this
inadvertent, it's a tactic.
it was exactly what the guy did when I first moved to LA, because I kept telling him I didn't want a relationship, and he kept telling me his mom this, my mom that, my like, and he was again also 8 years older than me looking for marriage. I mean, he ended up like, marrying someone really quickly after. Like it's just that's I'm not saying like it's a desperate thing, but it kind of is a desperate thing. Like
Yeah,
just things should be reciprocated, not like, you don't like shove someone into a situation they're not comfortable in. They should both want to be like, if I really like somebody and I felt it right off the bat, yeah, fucking meet her on a weekend. But
it's
not
just it's
not
just yeah, it just reeks of like trying, and I see this all the time, and it just drives me nuts when people try to just skip along years. Like people act like they should have 10 years experience or 10 years worth of connections in the first 6 months or something like that. And it's just like, you can't fake that. You can't skip ahead to that. Like you have to build that naturally. Right. So even on a small scale, like you're trying to like get this guy wants you to meet his mom, or he wants, I think it's every little step is just in his mind is like making the relationship more serious or more hard to get out of or something. Right.
Mhm. Hard to get out, exactly, hard to get out serious. And also I think sometimes people think it's a way to show that they like you more than others. I like you more than the other girl. I didn't bring the other girl around this quick, or I didn't bring the other girl around. And it's like
Yeah.
that's not actually showing me you like me, or because at the same time, how you treat me is how I know you like me. meeting your mom and dad is not something about treating me. That's just like getting to know someone further. That's not liking me further. That's
Mhm.
taking our relationship further. That's like another step. It doesn't make you like I've never introduced someone to my mom and then liked him more because he met my mom. Like that's
Yeah.
just the next step in the relationship. It has nothing to do with how I feel. But
No.
at the same time, oh sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say people I just see it all the time where people are trying to just push hard through into like a serious relationship, and it's just you can't do it. Like there's no shortcuts. I'm sorry. There just is not. I know some people fall in love really fast and everything goes pretty smooth,
Mhm.
but that's not you can't make that stuff happen. Like, and it's not to say you wouldn't build a good relationship eventually, but you can't just go running like full steam into the wall and like thinking it's gonna make everything fall into place. Like it just there's no substitute for time, I don't think.
Well, I think when you jump into a relationship, which I'm like, because like I think of it this way, like I've been single for many years, and mostly because I know the feeling I'm looking for. If I was to get that feeling and it was reciprocated, I would jump down that rabbit hole and get into the relationship. But that doesn't mean the experiences are part of it. Like I'm not going to learn in 1 month what I will know about that person in 10 years. It just means I want to go down that journey with them. It doesn't mean that I know him so well and I knew him better than everybody else. It just means that I've chosen to jump in this relationship and take the journey as it comes. It doesn't mean we're in a 10-year relationship and I know everything, we've done everything, and we should experience everything. Like that should still be part of the growing together. And I think when you decide to jump into a relationship, you have to accept that you're still getting to know that person and experiencing new things with them.
I
Like you
think
don't just
people that are getting into relationships and have been in serious relationships in the past want to like
mhm.
skip ahead to like where it's a serious relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, when you say that too, I had another guy recently, which is again, like I really think like meeting the parents, there's no timeline with the kids. You have to know the fucking be 100% positive. I want to be in a serious relationship with this person before you bring him around your family and
Yeah,
kids, sorry. And he on like the first time we're talking on the phone, handed the phone over to his 10-year-old son.
that's
And right off,
bananas.
I was done. I was
That's red
done. I was
flags
like, you
city.
have no respect as a father. Like, I, to me, it's a huge red flag. I was like, if my dad was just dating like that, I would not be comfortable
Yeah,
and
there is
trying
all.
to,
It's just why. Yeah, there's so many different. It takes all sorts. But it's like that's. It's just wild. You know what I mean? Like you just can't wrap your head around some people's behavior, and it's probably innocent enough, and it comes from a good place. But you're like, dude, like you're a parent, you've got to shield your kid a little bit from the realities of what's going on out there, right? And
but
that you are going to date some people before you click up with someone more serious. You can't just be bringing every one of them, parading them past the kid, right?
But I think he was doing exactly what you're saying is like I think he was trying to get us right like he wanted a serious relationship. He had serious relationship. He was just trying to get us like let's just get everything out there and experience everything right off the bat on like day 2, you
I
know?
see it time and time again, and with friends and stuff, and I'm like, you can't do it. You can't force it. You can't skip ahead. You can't skip steps. You can't, it's like those people that'll have a kid to try and save the marriage, right? It's like you just
Yeah,
can't.
yeah.
You got to get the horse before the cart. You know what I mean? And what I'll say for you, like, which observation I've made, for what it's worth, I think that you have a complete life the way you are. Like I don't think you're missing anything, and I think
Oh,
you
thank
want to
you.
add to it, like make it better. But I don't think you're missing anything. I think a lot of the people you're dating are missing something, and they're trying to fill that void. Whereas I think you're in a place where like you're very happy with your life. You're confident in who you are. It's all good, and you just want to make it better. Whereas these other people are literally trying to fill a void, right? So that's where like the rush I think comes from.
Thank you for and actually it's really funny you bring that up because I just had this conversation with a girlfriend of mine. She went out with a guy and everything on paper they really matched. And I saw the guy's profile also online because they had met online. I saw him on a few apps, and I thought, yes, profile. They like when you tap, like they both did a lot of the same things. They both had the same hobbies. They both had the same type of career. But personality wise, I sensed someone who was insecure,
Hmm.
and he came off insecure. Like not something obvious and not something she would see, but I saw it in little ways, like the pictures he posted. Like one was of him taking off, like they can do like these little videos now online, and it's like him taking his shirt off at the gym. I mean, that just is so insecure to me.
Oh yeah.
And then like little things like, and he wrote like on his bio or one of the bios, it said like, not it looking for chit chat, let's just grab Jinx and see what happens. Like he wasn't even willing to invest who someone was before actually going on a date. He would just go on a date with anybody.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, it's not that because it didn't work out with them. And I said, it's not that he wasn't interested in you. This guy's clearly missing something. Like something is missing. Like
Hmm.
I want someone because I want to experience things with them. But I, exactly like you said, I'm not missing anything. I've got
Yeah.
my place. I've got like, I'm good. You know, I
Hmm.
just, the only thing that would be nice is to experience something alongside somebody.
Right.
And
You got to be
he,
careful. You find someone that's also complete, right? And those people
exactly.
are hard to find. You know.
And no one's ever 100% complete. Like we're all missing something. Like there's something in like I would like to be more patient. So if I find someone who's patient, I appreciate that more. But that's appreciating. It's not
Yeah.
like desperate for it. And I think that the people who don't work on themselves, they're the ones who are rushing things or pushing things. And we always have to remind ourselves sometimes we're not for the other person because they're looking so hard to feel completed. And you don't know what that whole story of completion is to them. Like they don't realize of looking internally. Like I even know people who like they're like, oh, when I want to learn French, for instance, but when I meet someone, I'll learn French with them. Or I was just talking to this guy online the other day, and he was like, oh, I've always wanted to do, and he had like a list of things to do, and like they
Like a
weren't
bucket
something,
list.
a bucket list, and they were very simple things, like they weren't difficult things. And I was like, well, why don't you just do that with some friends? And he's like, no, in my mind, I'm doing it with a significant other, and it's like, no,
Hmm.
that's means you're missing a lot in life. Like
Yeah.
we're 40 people going. I don't like to go on trips alone, but people do that stuff alone. It wasn't even a trip. Like he was just talking about like joining some league, like some softball league. Well, fucking go join it. Why do you have to be in a relationship? Like you're obviously missing
Yeah.
something that
Those people
joining a
think that it's
softball.
going to change their whole life too, which and that's the worst part is when you get into a relationship and you're still the same person you were like a week ago and it hasn't solved all your problems. Then you know that old saying,
Exactly.
wherever you go, there you are.
No, I've
And
never
that's
heard that
oh, is that
before.
right? Well, it's yeah. So that's these people they idolize or idealize this situation where everything's going to be better. I'll be happy when. And it's crushing when you get there and you're still the same person and you still got all the same challenges, right? Like so, like you say, like there's nothing stopping you now. Like do it now. Join the thing you want to join or go do whatever. Have a complete life and then attract a partner to share it with. But these people that are sitting around waiting for that to kickstart the rest of their life, it's crushingly disappointing when you get there and you're still the same person with the same struggles and there's not much has changed, right?
And it's exactly that because the reality is, and also if you're actually doing the life, if you're living the life you want to lead, you're most likely going to meet someone who will match you and is
Yeah.
going to, enjoy. You're going to have someone to do it with. You're
Well,
going to
you'll
meet someone
attract
who's
that
like,
person. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly, right? And there are people also like when you said the idolize thing, I notice this and I know, I mean, have a very clear example, but there's lots of people I know like this. I know this girl who she grew up watching Sex in the City. Okay. She's 10
Yeah.
years
That's
older than
never
me.
good.
So, and the funny thing is she's never had a relationship ever. She's in her like, but because every time she's met someone, exactly like you said, she's fast forward the story and it's turned into some situation that doesn't even match her natural way of a person, of who she is,
Hmm.
but what she's seen and idolized in TV shows and how she thought that romance would be and how, and like she was like in her late 40s. And I told her, I'm like, that's not even you. That's literally an episode from Sex in the City.
Yeah.
And every time you go on a date with this guy, you think that those things are going to happen, and then she pushes them, that she corners the guy, she says things, she like forces some sort of situation hoping to get that ending. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's just not how it is.
No, people have to have realistic expectations of everything. And it's I was talking to a girl at work about that today, just about even just work. She's like, everything's got its issues, everything's got its flaws. Like you got to make the best of it and find the best fit, but then, understand that it'll never be perfect, right?
Well, everything good also has a bad side too.
Yeah, people just I feel like just some people have unrealistic expectations of like maybe their partner, and then they also seem to be the same people that have no idea how to sort out their own crap, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, going back to the main question too, what about friends? What do you think? Like for me, friends, it's not I love meeting a guy's friends right off the bat, and I love them to meet mine. I think it's such a fun social thing to do, and like I love group things,
Yeah.
so I don't read into it. Like I don't think anything of it. I don't think
Yeah,
just
meeting
because a guy
friends,
brought me
I
around.
would, yeah, meeting friends right off the hop's not an issue. Like I say, it doesn't necessarily dictate who the person is, but it kind of gives you a feel for like what they're about and what they like doing, and who they surround themselves with, right?
I know a lot of people who they think like I, for instance, brought my girlfriend on a second date because he wanted to do something really fun, and I knew she would want to do it too.
Hmm.
And I also a while ago, like pre-COVID, met a guy. I mean, people thought I did the wrong thing. They're like, why would you do that? Because I ended up not liking him, not because of anything she said. I didn't like the way he interacted with her. He didn't flirt or anything. It wasn't like that. Like I wasn't like that kind of interaction. It
Hmm.
was actually like he kept lying a little bit, like or like over saying things that just didn't make sense to both me and her. Like it just seemed we could tell he was exaggerative,
Right.
and I'm not that type of person, and she caught on to it and I caught on to it. So maybe I would have let it go, if I had gone on like a third or fourth date, maybe he wouldn't have shown off as much,
It's an
you know?
insecurity thing for sure. Like people,
Yeah.
it's like guys telling stories about fighting other guys and stuff. I'm like, ugh, like nobody wants to hear this story, bro.
But my girlfriend told me, she's like, well, why did you bring me on the second date? Maybe he wouldn't be like that if it had been third or fourth. And I'm like, but who cares? Like people are like, if I don't care. I don't think it's a big if that's who he is. He would have been like that in the third or fourth or fifth date. Maybe he wouldn't have, but this is the story that let out. Like,
Yeah.
and I also had met another guy before COVID. On our second date, he was going to this like wine tasting thing, and he asked me if I wanted to come, and I was like, "Fuck yeah!" And my friend and I went, and I had such a good time. And then
Hmm.
after that, I hung out with him for weeks, went to all these fun things, and I didn't see something serious with him long term, but I had a great time. And I told him like I in the beginning I thought maybe like I wasn't sure,
Yeah.
but everyone kept telling me like, well, why are you going on with all his friends if you don't see something serious? I'm like, but I also told him I don't know how I feel about him. I don't have to explain to his friends, maybe
No.
his mom and dad, but I don't owe his friends fucking anything. If I want
No.
to explore, it's not the same as the parents in my eyes. Like you should know before you meet the parent, like if you want to date them seriously. But
Yeah.
I don't think you should have to decide how you feel about a person before hanging out with their friends. Like I
No, I
think
don't think so
that's
either. No, I've met lots of friends, significant others, and it's never been an issue. Like if they didn't work, I'd say, oh, that girl was nice. It's too bad it didn't pan out, but it's part of life, right? And adults, we can process that no problem, not like kids, right? So I've never saw an issue with bringing someone around my friends or having one of my friends bring someone around. It was never a problem. It never occurred to me to be an issue, right?
and I also don't think no matter how close a friend is, and I actually think if a friend is so close with you, they wouldn't put you in a place like where you have to decide between that person and your friend. Because I have a girlfriend who her boyfriend doesn't get along with anybody.
Mhm.
Um, but well, actually, it's not that he doesn't get along with anyone. Every other one of the girls don't seem to like him, but he's actually never done anything.
I wonder
And
what that's about.
I'm the only one who's never ever said anything bad about him or whatever. He's just a different person, and I actually think he's a really kind person. I genuinely like him.
Mhm.
And one time she told me, she's like, "Oh, I can't bring anyone but you around him." And I said, "But it's kind of your fault because all you do is complain about him to everybody else. So they
Yeah,
have
yeah.
preconceived judgments of him. And then also on top of it, it's not my choice unless it's like a wife abuser or like he's constantly cheating.
Mhm.
Just because, and I actually do like his personality, but I'm just saying in general, if I don't like my friend's boyfriend's personality, it's not my place if he's not doing anything to her to say fuck. Did it cut out? Sorry
Oh,
about that.
yeah, so I can hear you, yeah.
Um, oh, perfect. Yeah, the alarm went off. But yeah, so I just don't think it's my place or anyone else's place to be anything but kind to someone else's significant other. Like, I really think if you care about your friend, you will always be kind to their boyfriend or girlfriend, unless like the guy's cheating. Not that
Yeah.
I would be mean, even then, it's not my place to be mean. I'm just gonna keep a distance, let her know, and let them decide what they want to do. But I'm just
Well, the
saying,
issue with
oh,
the
go
issue
ahead.
with complaining to your friends though is like your friends, like you have an issue with your significant other and then you sort it out. and it's all good. But your friends tend to like not forgive and forget as easily,
But
So
that's
you
not
do.
okay.
I
Why do we
agree,
allow
but
that?
I don't know why people, and some people do, some people don't. Like, so I like, I tend to be like, oh, like that person's a good person. They got their issues, but I'm sure they're working on it, and that's coming from me having my own issues and like changing over time. I would hate to be um pinned down to the person I was, at 20 or whatever. But some people, girls, I would say more so girls, but I could be wrong. But I feel like they tend to have a harder time just like being supportive and letting the person vent, and then just kind of moving on. I feel like people, or even like say your sister or your parents or whatever, like I feel like they would have a soured opinion of the significant other, and it would be harder for them to like let it go. You know what I mean?
We've I as a society, we've romanticized that being a good friend means being loyal and having their back no matter what. But the reality is, to me, if you're a good friend and my friend comes to vent to me about like her boyfriend, I also try to see his side. A good friend would not be biased, would tell the truth. I would say, okay, here's where I see you're making fault, and here's where he's making fault. Nothing is 50-50. I
Hmm.
mean, can be, sorry, something can be 50-50. Nothing's 100% is what I mean. There could be 10% his fault, 80, 90% her fault, or 50-50 or whatever. There's always two people making mistakes. That's the reality of it, right? There's two people taking part in that situation. And I think as a good friend, someone coming to you and talking to you, you should try your best to give the full picture and try to understand both sides and share that with them so they can help mend it. And if they do mend it, it's not my right to ever bring it back up. You're
Hmm.
not allowed to then like come back and be like, oh, but oh, he did this today. Remember, like 2 months ago when he did, like, don't, like, she came to you for help, not for you to later be like in what we say loyal and like have her back and try to make him feel like more of a piece of shit and add to it. Like that's not helping. That's actually not helping a situation.
Yeah.
Making someone more angry or more upset or more validated for their anger isn't helping in any which, and it's actually that whole loyalty to a fault thing that's actually hindering someone's growth as a person.
Well, I
So
think it's for a topic for another day too might be like some of the friends that have their own needs above your own. Like say, excuse me, say your friend's like single and they prefer you to be single, right?
that's
You
true.
run into that shit, right? And it's like, oh man, like they're kind of a saboteur, and like like they're not really that happy that you're in a happy relationship because that's like cutting into their time.
And I think you can recognize something like that when you see that they're always first to jump on the bandwagon of like ripping into the guy and saying he's a piece of shit. Like I
Right.
said before, like just because that person's not my type of person doesn't mean that they're not a good person and a good fit for my friend,
Yeah.
you know?
But to circle back to the beginning though, like it's it's bring people around the parents and the friends and stuff. I think so much of it's like down to like your personality, but like people like you or I, like bringing a date or somebody around our friends is not a big deal. Like it's like, hey, this is someone, we're hanging out, whatever. And then our parents, in the same token, wouldn't take it too seriously either. So that's fine too. So I guess it's back to like the individual and how their relationships are with their parents and their friends, like how you would, because like people like you and I, it wouldn't be a big issue, right?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
guess it's how you
That's true.
frame it to how it, like if you're a guy that never has girls around, it would be weird. It would be kind of a bigger
Very.
deal. But if you or I, like who have friends of the opposite sex, it's not an issue. So I guess it's down to once again, without a real good answer, it's down to like circumstantial and how your relationship is with people of the opposite sex, and around your friends and family to begin with, right?
And that person being comfortable again, like we said, that person needs to be like, okay, I do want to meet your parent. Like there shouldn't be any pressure. Like it should be a joint choice, not driving
Yeah,
up to the
and you should
house.
be able to frame it as such, like, "Hey, this is
Yeah.
just someone I'm hanging around." Like, "Hey," and then our parents or our friends would be like, "Hey, right on." Like,
But
it's not a big deal. Yeah,
but again, that's not the norm. So we really should emphasize that the norm is that it would be something serious. So be sure before meeting parents and kids, like be sure you
definitely.
like the person.
Yeah, don't spring it on your significant other. Like, definitely feel them out about how they feel about it, and like that situation you were in, like that's nuts. Like, but
Yeah.
to be, yeah, just but again, for people like you or I, like it's not a big deal. So as far as we're concerned, you bring them around whenever you want. But
Yeah.
if you have maybe more traditional parents and like they think that if you bring a guy around, it's kind of serious, like that you got to play it by case, right? But
Yep. And then the last thing is friends, it shouldn't matter. Shouldn't matter.
No,
And
I've never had an issue bringing people around my friends or met many girls that had an issue with me coming around. I've never run into that. And if they are, you maybe got to think about what sort of friends these are, and do they want that person's best interest, or are they being selfish and they'd rather have like a drinking buddy or whatever, right?
exactly, exactly. Or if they just enjoy, sometimes not even it's a single thing, they just enjoy you being single and they're the taken one.
Yeah, like I
You know.
don't. When you and I were hanging out, I don't ever remember being like, not. I wanted you to be happy. Like, so if that meant you met a guy, and as long as the guy was good shit, and you brought one or two of them around, I was like, hey, as long as this guy makes you happy, that's all I need. That's all I care. You know what I mean? I would
That's
never
a
be like,
true friend.
fuck you. Like, now we can't hang out as much and or whatever. It's like I never had that and feeling towards someone that you brought around, because I was like, I just wanted you to be happy. And as long as the guy was a good dude, and the guys I met seemed to be the ones you were dating, I never had an issue with it, and you shouldn't. And if you got people around you that are like going to sabotage and do whatever, you got to reevaluate who you're hanging with, right?
I do think it's okay for it because I have had a friend tell me like this guy isn't the best guy. I think he's a lot different than you think, and I don't think he'll make you happy.
And
But
that's
even
okay if
after he
that's the case. Yeah,
totally, and even after he did that, he was always, always polite, kind to that guy. I never told the guy, we said I would never do that, but
right.
he was always good to them. So I think it's always, as long as you're respectful, cordial to that. Your
Yeah, you could
friends
say
are,
you
yeah,
could give the person your honest opinion, and then just
yeah.
be like, here you go. I'm just giving you my 2 cents. What you do with it is up to you, and I'll support you, whatever you decide. But
But we'll definitely do a friend one. I think we should delve more into a friend's situation. We
oh
could do
baby,
that.
I could go off on that. I got a few date people I've dated over the years that had the sabotage friend.
Well, next episode we have dating questions. People put it in dating questions, so we're gonna answer a few of those. But I think I'll add the dating. I'll add this. I'll add this tonight too.
Do we get to see
Um,
them ahead of time, or is this you're just springing on me
it's on the scripts I sent
that I should have
you.
read? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
it's episode 5. It's
I-
episode 5.
I'm just going in blind. I just come in, no idea what's going on, in a state of utter confusion.
We'll read them. Read them. I think they may it might turn into a 2 episode part, but let's we can go through some of the dating questions, and then we'll definitely get a friend one. I would love to hear about your stories about your friends.
Oh
So
man, it's more high school crap, but I could just go on for hours. It's gotta
I
watch what I
look
say.
forward to
But yeah,
hearing
it'll be
it.
funny.
Okay, good. I'll add that to our scripts and I'll send it over. Well,
Sweet.
thanks so much. I guess our next one is dating questions. Take a look, Leigh, beforehand.
Oh, I'm going in
Um,
blind,
so,
baby.
well, people have sent them in, so
Oh,
we'll
okay,
see
I'll
what
read them
people.
then. As long as
Okay.
you didn't make them up, I'll read them.
I might make a few now and add them.
I'm sure
So.
you would, but I'll be able to tell them a mile away if something you put in there. On a scale of 1 to 10, how great is Sherry?
Do you like my hair blonde or brunette?
Oh boy.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Don't forget to don't forget to subscribe to the perfect_X on Instagram, and follow us and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify,
Or else
or else.
we will find you.
Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, over and out. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.